one might be that. There we go. Should I stay on this one? Okay. Okay, welcome everyone online and outside and inside for our first community meeting of 2022. Whew. Okay, and with all things, let us first start with prayer. So I invite you to connect to the place that hopefully is very accessible and very alive, because we just created a beautiful 2022 bridge from the outer to the inner, from the visible to the invisible, to the illusionary real, to the eternal real. And allow that ear and eye of the heart to open. And this meeting is about we as community, we as Unity of Tustin as an organism, pulsing with life, pulsing with purpose. And I invite you to bring your attention into the white stone of Unity of Tustin. What is the emerging future calling us to be? How do we continue to bring forward this sacred medicine that is so resonant for evolving spirit in a way that can reconcile what seems like such division? So we know there is always a third way, and that third way is in manifestation. And we institutionally and organizationally are part of that. So feel into our divine purpose and hearing with the ear of the heart our divine purpose. And using this meeting and all of our connective spaces as a way to live out from that soul space, emerging future, the life that God is asking us to embrace and become. And with such gratitude for the vibrating excellence of Unity of Tustin and all of the dedication of so many souls that have made it that, we say thank you. Thank you, God. And so it is. And may the games begin.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Yay! We made it to the first of the year. Another, we're like 9 days in, woohoo! Another wave from those of you on Zoom. We just changed mics, so again, we had a little bit of an issue this morning. I want to apologize for those that were coming in online this morning and just want to double check that everybody is hearing me. Can we see some waves? Yep, everybody's waving? Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining in. So I am joined today by my esteemed colleagues of the board. Also, Shara, as you can see, is also going to be a part of our presentation today, as well as Mary Jean has got a few words as well. So let's just quickly go through the agenda. We are planning for about a 90-minute session, but that kind of depends upon how much Q&A we do. I'm happy to take Q&A, and in fact, we would like this meeting to be very interactive and participatory. So we're going to start with some introductions, and I'm going to actually do that as I go through here. So we'll have a little bit of community recognition. I want to share with you something that has been on my heart and that I've been witnessing since I've been in this role. We'll talk about some planning. We'll talk about how we're organizing. We're going to get a financial report from our esteemed treasurer, Mr. Todd Bopel. We will get an SMT and YFM update from Reverend Shara. Connie Carter, our vice president and invaluable, person in all ways, but particularly on the grounds. And also she's like, my number one counselor. She's amazing. So Connie Carter will be with us sharing today. Deanna and Kathy are working, and I'm going to share this with you in a second. They are working the interactive part of the session. And so Kathy, as many of you know, is our new treasurer, and she's been doing a fantastic job keeping us straight with our notes and our secretary. I'm so sorry, secretary. She's been doing a fabulous job. Already messing up. Let's just go back to the fabulous job she's doing, okay, with keeping our notes and our task items and whatnot in check. So that's been wonderful to have you in that role, Kathy. Deanna is what we call Deanna our VPP, or our VVP. What do we call our vice president, our VVP? Yeah. And Deanna is so great because she is vice principal of a school, and she's got like all the technology skills and the communication, like online, how we interact with each other, and she's got all these really great ideas. And I just want to thank you, Deanna, for all that you've contributed. So they'll do the interactive part, and then Mary Jean will come up and close us out with prayer and announcement of our next meeting. So that's what you're in store for. While I'm up here speaking, so about the amount of time that I'm going to be speaking, which is about 20-ish minutes, we would like to ask you to answer a couple of questions for us that we feel are really important. So one of those questions is, what type of classes or studies would you like to see Unity of Tustin offer in 2022? And the other one is, what is the most important topic you think the board should be addressing this year? So we've got flip charts out back for you if you prefer to write your responses. Also, you can take a snapshot of the QR codes that are on the slide deck. Actually, you can take a picture of your screen, believe it or not, and that'll open it up. You can, Kathy's going to put a link in the chat, so it'll open up into a document where you can respond with your answers. And I think there's a QR code, outside too, so if you don't get a chance to do it, you want to snap the QR code on your way out and answer later today or whatnot, that's great too. So we just really want to hear from you. That's the point. So one of the things that they're going to be doing is, in about a half an hour or so, they're going to start gathering up the answers to those questions. And then they want to share out if there's like common threads, right? Like what are they seeing? And then also there'll be an opportunity for just asking questions through chat as well. All righty, so let's get going. So one of the things that's really been on my mind, like I said, since I've taken on this role. So when I for many years, came to church, and I felt like I was participating. Like at one point for a year, I did the weekly slides, and I attended a lot of the activities and the events and things like that. But when you step into this role, you really, really see things through a whole new lens. And I think how I really see things is I really see all of you, and I see what it takes to run this community. And I'm telling you, I am truly touched. So I want to just go through a little bit of what it means to be a community, and then a little bit of what it means to be this community. So a few just little quotes that I pulled. So the greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassion of its members. And I certainly feel that this community has a lot of compassion. Alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. This is a Helen Keller quote. And sometimes you got to create what you want to be a part of. Yeah, and that's how I really feel about this community. I think this community has stepped up beyond belief in a difficult time to create the community that they want to have. And I just want to take, every week we get up here, and we rightly so, we honor people for what they're doing. What you miss in that, though, is the totality of what we're all doing. And so I just want to spend just a second on what we've created in this community. So I'm going to go through this quickly because it would take a long time. There's 26 of these. And if I have forgotten anyone or any group, because I am an infallible human, you just chat it in the chat or you yell it out. But I just want everyone to just realize the power of this community. So our prayer chaplains, who obviously amazing job holding us in prayer and being there for us. The remembrance ceremony that they did for us this year, absolutely stunning and beautiful and necessary. Our gardening and grounds team that shows up weekly and monthly to create those beautiful grounds that we see out there. The meditation garden services that we've been having, the setup and the tear down that takes every time we do one of those, all volunteer based. Our bookstore, manned every single week by people who feel passionate about keeping that open for us. Our choir and our quartets, and wasn't it so beautiful to see our choir back this last week? There's nothing like it. The AV team of volunteers, we've got a brand new one here. We've got somebody who stepped in right before Christmas Eve, never done it before. We literally gave him the most complicated service we could have come up with and said, will you do this? And his answer was yes, and we thank you for that. Our usher team, created this year, just absolutely fabulous to walk on campus and be greeted and have it be run so professionally, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The women's group who meets and stays in contact. The Mutts who meets every other week and has provided us 2 barbecues this year, right? And both of those, how much fun was that? We played cornhole, we did line dancing, we had amazing food. Doesn't happen without that team of amazing men. And some donations of pickles. A couple of female influences in there. AIF was absolutely amazing this year, but you know what? It would not have been half as amazing without the small group leaders who opened their homes or showed up on this campus, right, to lead us every week. It's so deepening and so meaningful. Hospitality out there, pretty much rain or shine, right? Feeding us every week, wonderful. That gets better and better, I think, every week too. Today's spread was amazing. The sanctuary decorations, oh my gosh, how gorgeous it's been this whole holiday season. 100 Days of Prayer that Dr. Marge Britt started us out with at the beginning of the year. A wonderful contribution. The Carl Anthony concert that we had, right? And people, we didn't quite know what we were doing, showed up with food and, right, we sat on the lawn, had a wonderful time. Sunday supper, everybody who contributes to that. The silent prayer team, always want to be held in prayer. The YFM volunteer groups, right, and what they're doing to help support Erin and her leadership there. Again, no one does this alone. Our groups that have been led, like the Course in Miracles, the Mystical Book Study, the Sunday Book Study, A Course on Love, right? All of those deepen our spiritual connection and our connection to each other. All of you who just show up and attend to receive the message, right? Nobody wants to talk to an empty audience, right? So if what you're doing to contribute is showing up, that's great. Like, we love that. And we also want to know there's a lot of stuff going on and there's a place for you here. Donors, obviously, we cannot do this without all of you. And so we appreciate every single donation. There have been some people who have really stepped in and leaned in this year, and we appreciate those donations as well as everything that everyone's been giving. It's really helped get us to where we are. So with that, actually, I just want to go back to a second. That's a big list, right? And I probably missed a few things, but this is who you are. This is who we are, right? And this is a community worth, dare I say, fighting for, working for, growing, expanding, building on, right? I want to be here to participate in this. This is an awesome group. And so we've taken that seriously as what I'm going to show you in a minute, we're going to now call the leadership team, right? It's important that we all work together. And I always want to say things in the positive and the affirmative, so I'm going to leave it at that. It's important that we all work together. And so what we've done is we've gotten together and we have said it's a broad leadership team, and it's comprised of your staff, your spiritual ministry team, and your board, right? And we are aligned, we are working together on behalf of moving this community forward. And that's what we're going to be about in 2022. So we said, okay, well, how do we take that seriously? How do we actually put some meat around that? So the first thing we got to do together and we decided and we talked about, and we really talked about this. This is not Lisa, your board president. This is this group hashing this through, right? And saying, what do we really think? So the first thing we said is, why do we get up and do this every morning? What's our purpose? And this is what we came up with. We came up with, many of you are familiar with Simon Sinek and the concept of know your why. So we came up with, we are in community to support each other in our spiritual evolution. We wanted it to be simple. We wanted it to be repeatable and shareable. And I think this concept of community and supporting each other around spiritual evolution, that's really, when it comes down to it, like what we're here to do. And then how are we going to use this? Well, we're going to use this as a discerning question before we take action. We're going to say to ourselves, is this supporting the community? Is this supporting each other? Is this supporting our spiritual evolution? And so we think this is going to sort of be a powerful anchor as we move forward into the year. And then I apologize for this slide. I tried to do a lot of builds, but didn't get to it on this one. We said, okay, well then how are we going to form some norms? How are we going to actually interact with each other around the support of our why? And so we came up with 6 things. So 1, what's our guiding principle? It's the highest good of the community, of the Unity of Tustin community. That's what we're working for. Our problem resolution, we are solution oriented. We proactively present solutions alongside problems. So, we all have problems, right? But how are we going to solve for them? So these are the norms that your leadership team is saying. We're holding each other accountable to these. Conflict resolution. We're going to assume positive intent in others, and we're going to speak, directly to any person that we may have a disagreement or a difference with. Decision making. Decisions are going to be in alignment with our purpose, and following appropriate consultations, which you'll see what that means in a minute when Todd is going to talk about a new, a RACI structure is what it's called, but like an organizational structure on how we make decisions. You'll see what that means more when he presents that, but we're going to, after consultations are done in the appropriate way, then we'll execute those and according to our areas of authority. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to be clear on who does what, when, and how. Communication and personal interactions just go without saying that we treat each other with love, kindness, and respect. And then accountability, as I said, we agree and have agreed with each other that we are going to hold each other accountable to these norms. So the bottom line on all of that is we're working together, one big team, lots of communication, under a set of norms and guidelines that we think will carry this church forward. So, with that, I'm going to go into a little bit of what our plan is going into 2022. And before I hit this slide, I'm going to do my boss always tells me, don't bury the lead, Lisa. So the lead is the health of the church is good. We are good, right? And we're going into 2022 in a much stronger position than we were in 2021. The goal now is going to be, how do we grow? How do we expand? How do we continue to build on what we spent 2021 working so hard on? So we're in good shape. So one of the things as we got together as this leadership team and we started talking about, okay, what are we going to do? What is our focus going to be in 2022? One of the things that you have to do is you have to decide what you are not going to do. So as Steve Jobs puts it, because I cannot put it better than him, deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. And he actually goes further to say, I'm proud of many of the things that we haven't done. And I'm as proud, I can barely say that, sorry. I'm as proud of many of the things we haven't done as the things we have done. Innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. Now, we don't have 1,000 things, but we have lots of things. There's a lot of really good ideas that come from this community. And, we're not going to be able to do them all. So I want to just kind of put that out there. We're going to do what makes most sense against our goals. We will obviously take input from you, but we have to be a little bit discerning, right? We only have so much resource. So setting the stage with that, I'll walk through what are our high-level strategic initiatives for the year. So the first one, which is a little bit long but meaningful, is to create a transformative, sustaining leadership model where the spiritual ministry team, the staff, and the board are committed to collaborative, unified, effective, and fulfilling relationships. So that's what I just outlined, how we're going to do that. We just feel that it's so important that when the groups work together, we're so much more effective, right? And so really focusing on that this year is something that we want to bring forward. This one's going to be controversial, I'm pretty sure. because it was in our groups. Increase weekly attendance by 100%. So what does that mean? That literally means double our attendance, okay? Now, I have heard, and I agree with people who have said, don't set goals like this, all right? What you want to do is you want to put together the right programs, the right consciousness and whatnot, and then people will come. And I say it's a both and. I say, yes, we do want to do that. And that's the strategy. That's how we're going to get to this. But if we don't set some specific goals, like how do we know how we're doing, right? How do we know if we're improving in this area? And the fact is, we do need new members. Any business needs new people coming in the door. If you don't have new people coming in the door, you're kind of dying off, right? Because you always have some level of attrition. So you need new people coming in. But this isn't just about new people coming in, this is about attendance. And so you're going to see when I break this down, it's not about, we just go out and, get 100, 150 new members. It's about how do we engage people better and get more people involved at all levels, right, in all activities. Develop a self-funding financial model, right? So we don't want to have to be worried about our finances, right? We want to have finances, and Todd will talk a lot about this, about that maintain what we need to do to stay operating, but also give us growth potential. Increase community engagement and retention. It's important that we're delivering what we need to be delivering to all of you so that you feel like you want to be a part and engaged with this community. Engagement is the number one measurement of retention. And so how can we get you guys more excited, more engaged? That's something that specifically Kathy's going to be focusing on. And define a coordinated vision for spiritual growth. We'll talk a little bit more about this, but obviously the SMT will be working on that. And then finally, maintain and create new revenue opportunities for the grounds. So at a high level, I'm going to kind of go through with you guys some of our ideas for each of these. So you remember a year and a half or so ago, we did a cube. I was going to show you the old cube, and then we'll do the new cube, and I thought, out with the old, in with the new. So we got a new cube. So some of you may, if you're on Zoom, you're probably going to have an easier time seeing this. I'm actually going to have to refer to my slide for it. But so this first one, create a transformative, self-sustaining leadership model. So some of this we've done. So developing decision-making protocols. Todd's going to talk about that. We've already checked that one off the box. Facilitate a visioning and new church structure. So we've been talking about that for a while, but let's put some pen to paper. What does that really look like? Staff benefit policy and salary review. So one thing I just want to put out there is we have employees like any other business has employees, and we have to take care of them, right? And so we can all sort of imagine, what that means. So I'll leave it at that. Training for potentially conflict resolution if we've still got some of that to resolve. Skill sets, as we evolve more and more into technology in the AV world, we need better skill sets, improved skill sets, and redundancy. Anytime you have only one person that knows how to do a job, it's called a single point of failure. And that's not a good place to be, right? Any business will tell you that. So we want to work on that. We want to lead a brand discussion this year. So I have absolutely no idea how the community feels about this. But Unity worldwide actually has branding, right? They have a logo, they have a look, they have a tagline. So I think one of the things we wanted to, and there's some benefits, right? If you use that, people can more easily identify you, and there's what discounts on websites and just different things like that. So it's something we want to take up with the community this year and decide, hey, do we maybe want to adopt that branding? And then building groups and building leaders. So we want to do that around the small group ministry and around all the director development. So this is something that, along with Shar and Mary Jean, will be really focused on this area. Second one is this, how do we increase, by 100%? So as I mentioned, this is several different things. So this is going to be a combination of looking at, the SMT and our weekly services and whatnot, along with the YFM, right? Both of those things need to grow. But it'll be a combination of looking at how do we grow our physical campus presence, our virtual, our midweek services, our new member ministry, and then how do we really look at outreaching to new families, right? And bringing new kids and really building that YFM program. So again, lots of detail needs to be put around this. Here's the YFM part. But this is the area that we want to focus on. This will be led by a lot of people need to be involved in this. So we've got the SMT, Mary Jean and Aaron on the front end, and then Deanna, Aaron, and Shara really working on the YFM. Okay. Self-funding financial model. So here we want to, for the first time, establish what we're calling an annual budgeting process. So the annual budgeting process is not just about, kind of like what did we do last year, right? It's about what do we need to sustain in a way that we want to function, and then what do we need to do to grow, and how do we think about maintenance, and how do we think about audio video upgrades and things like that. So Todd's been working on that level of a budget. We also want to talk about capital campaigns, legacy donations. I don't know if I mentioned on that one slide because I meant to put it in. If I didn't, we have a financial committee that has met with Todd and has revised our investment strategy and whatnot. So we need to honor them too. That's hugely important. But looking at legacy donations, donor outreach, but really, this whole area of how do we resource and fund the things that we want to do. Okay, community engagement, again, led by, and that, by the way, that was going to be led by Todd and Reverend Blair with MJ's involvement. And then community engagement and retention. So this is going to be really led by Kathy, as I mentioned earlier. So she's going to be working on things like this meeting and social events and how do we look at the bookstore, start measuring retention metrics. So how many people do we have engaged and whatnot. Maybe look at something like rookie and volunteer of the year. But she's really going to be looking at this whole picture of how do we get you guys more involved and feeling like you want to be more involved with the community. And I'm almost done here. Number 5, so define a coordinated vision for spiritual growth. So this we feel like is really important. We feel like it's really important that we have a pathway for people who are coming into the church as well as people who have been here for quite some time, right? And we feel like it's important that we have teachings around all the core areas that this community finds important. So the unity teaching and fundamentals, some people really gravitate toward that, and how can we do a better job of just making sure people understand when there's SEE classes and things like that. The mystical and non-dual teachings, of course, that so many of us enjoy, and wisdom and contemporary. So we'll be working on potentially a Sunday morning meditation group with Craig that he already leads, small groups, silent retreats, Sunday workshops, and this whole concept of conveyor belt, like how do we just keep moving people forward. And then finally, but absolutely not the least, because this is really has made our world go round this past year, but to maintain and create new revenue opportunities for the grounds. So this is really, Connie and Marco kind of working together. But there's a couple of things here. So one, we want to get some probably new funding for, just to keep the grounds maintenance up and going right now. But we think that there is a lot of opportunity to invite the community in if we do the right things with the grounds. So if you looked around this whole Christmas season, how many garden walks did you guys see? How many lighted festival garden walk activities or hayride activities or whatever? There were all kinds of them, right? All over the place. Every Halloween, there's trick-or-treat things for the kids. There's harvest, kind of Oktoberfest type of things. There's all kinds of things that we could do and set up on these grounds to really invite the community and get people more involved. So we're not saying that, that's what we're doing or it's any one of those things, but we're saying that Connie's really going to lead an effort to sort of look at those things and say, how can we use the grounds a little bit more effectively to bring more community, in to experience, our beautiful grounds and our beautiful community here. So that makes up kind of the 6 pillars of what we're going to be focusing on this year. And again, if you guys have, questions about this, we'll be taking questions from the audience. We'll be taking questions as you put them in on chat. So we're certainly happy to answer that. And then before I hand it off to Todd, there's just one more thing that I wanted to talk about here. We've been playing with this concept a little bit called a mission-centric, intention-based leadership model. And what does that mean? Well, the core belief is that we all have leadership potential. And that when we treat people in this way, it improves effectiveness, morale, and it makes the organization stronger. Most importantly to me, setting up an organization like this it allows us to function at a higher level even with leadership change, right? There's not one of us in any of the leadership roles that are going to be in this role forever. And when those changes happen, we want it to be seamless, right? We want you guys to not feel it. We want you to not feel that angst, inside, like, oh my gosh, what's happening here again? So honestly, if there's any like one thing that I can try to help contribute to in my time here, it's that we move past that and we all feel very comfortable with how we're organized and how we transition and how we onboard our leadership team. The community in this model is involved as stakeholders and active participants, right? And I just showed you, you're already there, right? You're already that. So how do we do this? Well, leaders must have functional competence, right? It's not like everyone can just stand up and go, okay, I want to be a leader. You got to be competent in the area you want to lead. You've got to have clarity in your role, and then you've got to have clear lines of communication. You got to tell people what you're intent on doing, and let people respond and whatnot, and have dialogue. This has worked really well in one particular area, and we're looking to do it in a second area. And I think we'll be, as you guys have your ideas, tapping into this concept a little bit more as the year goes on. So I just want to give a shout out kind of to Kathy Corner and the Usher Ministry team as a prime example of this, right? So what she did is she had an idea. She said, I'm going to put my idea in writing. I'm going to tell you all about how I envision it working. She met with key leadership, members of the team to vet it, right? Then they decided on an implementation style. She held meetings to communicate with everybody how it was going to work. And then she had people in that group raise their hand and say, I would also like to learn to be a leader, right? So that she's cultivating leaders within the Usher team. And that's a leader-leader model, and one that we think is working very well with the Usher Ministry team and can work well in other places as well. Craig's idea of training people to do a Sunday morning meditation before service is another example of this, because that's exactly what he said. I want to train people to lead meditations, right? So we can do more and more of that, and it's a way to facilitate how I started off by saying we can't do everything. It's a way to facilitate more of the things that we want to get done, should you guys choose to want to work in that fashion. So that's about it for me until I come back to do Q&A. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Todd Bopel, our treasurer, and he will talk to us about this new RACI matrix model and the budget.
Thank you. All right. This is kind of an eye chart, so I apologize, but we did just want to give you a sense of something that we've been working on. And this is a way to really look at responsibilities and how they're distributed across the church organization. Running a nonprofit is different from running a business, and if any of you have done it, you know that. Running a church is very different from a lot of other nonprofits. And so it's really crucial to figure out how you distribute responsibilities and accountability and decision-making. And we've made that even more complicated in two ways. Number one, we have a spiritual ministry team instead of a senior minister, and that team then has a set of responsibilities, but it's distributed across a team instead of being held in one key person. Number two, as we mentioned a few times, the board is actually taken on a very active role during the pandemic especially, and we've been acting as staff members in a lot of ways, or backup staff members, or taking on projects and responsibilities. And we know that's not sustainable, and so we really want to start to figure out as we get through this period and as we evolve, how does the board start to disengage from some of those things that are not sustainable, that we shouldn't be doing on a daily, regular basis going forward. And we can't just disengage by walking away. We have to disengage intentionally by making sure everyone understands who's responsible for what. And so this model allows us to define who's responsible for things, who's consulted on things, and who's informed of those decisions after they're made. And so we've broken it down into spiritual ministry team areas of responsibility, the ministry staff and the church staff areas of responsibility, and the board areas of responsibility. And in certain cases, the board is responsible and accountable for a decision that gets made, but we have to consult other parts of the organization, and then we inform parts of the organization as well. And the same thing is true for all the other areas. So it's trying to really get clear about who's making certain decisions, who are they consulting before making those decisions, and then who are they informing of those decisions once they get made. And this, we think, is going to really help us all operate more effectively going forward. So it's really just about clarity and making sure that whatever we're doing it intentionally so that we can keep evolving that model as we evolve. So more to come on this, and this really is just a framework that we're going to continue to work with. And it's not going to be static, because just because we do something right now in a particular way doesn't mean that 6 months or a year from now it'll still be done that way, because our staff is going to evolve and our board is going to evolve, and all of that is going to keep changing. So that becomes a living framework. So with that, I'm going to get into a quick financial update, and I'm definitely not going to get into the weeds here, but I am going to use some of the same charts that I've used the last couple of times we've done these presentations to try and give you a feel for how our finances are evolving. And really, it's fantastic news at this point. So the way that we have weathered the pandemic and the way that we are coming into a position of more financial health and wellness at this point in time is really, really impressive. As you can see, for 2021, which we just completed, our total revenues came in at just under $520,000. Our total expenses came in at just over $513,000, so we actually had a tiny profit at the end of the year. It was actually, a really good year. Now, to be completely candid, December saved our bacon, so thank you to all of you who did some year-end donations. We had a huge month in December. We usually do have a really strong fourth quarter. That's not unusual. This year, October and November were a little weaker than normal, and then December was sort of a giant catch-up month. So I think our Q4 ended up about the same as past Q4s. It just was shifted a little more towards the end to make us a little nervous. But it was a really great December, and we ended up... But frankly, even if December hadn't done that, we would have still been, if let's say December had looked exactly like November, we probably would be showing a loss there on the bottom line. The net would have probably been about a negative $20,000, which would still be better than 2020 or 2019, and even a little better than 2017. So honestly, even if December had not been a significantly stronger month than maybe we thought, we still would have come in a really healthy place. And so this has been a really, really strong year. And I think it really demonstrates that we've come out of the pandemic finally in a way that is significantly improving, and that a lot of the things Lisa has been talking about already are things that are really starting to bear some fruit. This is our reserves, so I try to always show this chart so that you all know the health of our reserves and what we have in our reserves. Our reserves are a separate portfolio that is in the stock market primarily. It's mostly in equities, a little bit in fixed income. Lisa mentioned our investment committee, and that's John Hawes and Zelda Benson and Joe Hill, and they helped review our investment portfolio this year and decided that we should get a little more aggressive, so we did. And that was great. We had a really strong year. We had a couple of months where we were probably a little bit more nervous than we would have been otherwise, but overall we had an incredibly positive year. So as you can see, we ended the year with almost $260,000 in our reserves, and that's after taking out $25,000 around the middle of the year when we had to do the painting and the termite work and some of the things that made the campus look fantastic, but were expensive and unusual expenses. So all in all, though, we've got a really strong reserve portfolio that has continued to grow, and it has served us very, very well, and we continue to leverage that when we need to. Our operating cash on hand, as I've mentioned earlier or late last year when we had one of these meetings, we really decided that we were sitting on probably too much cash in our bank account, our operating bank account, where we do our sort of day-to-day payroll and all those kinds of things. We had been hovering around $85,000 to $100,000 was kind of our normal balance on hand, but we were never using that much money at any time at all, and that money literally just sits in the bank and doesn't really make any interest or do anything for us. So when we spent a bunch of money on painting and on termites and all those kinds of things in August, you see our drop there in August of 2021, where we got down to just under 40,000 on hand. We brought in 25,000 from the reserves, and we've really tried to keep 50 to 60,000 as kind of our more normal posture going forward, because we just don't feel like we need to sit on that much cash. And that has not been a problem. As you can see, the rest of the year, we've been hovering right around 60,000 on hand. And now, because we had that really strong December, we've jumped up closer to 75 or almost 80,000 on hand. That'll come down a bit in Q1 as we start to do some of our normal spending, and our giving comes back down to a more normal level. But it's a really good story. That's basically intentional to keep the cash at that new level of 50 to 60,000. And I don't think we're going to have any trouble doing that. And then lastly for me is budgeting. So we've really tried to get a lot stronger on the budgeting side now. This is not something historically that the church has always done. I think it's sort of come in and out of fashion depending on what the church has been going through at any given time. But we really decided that we wanted to get a little more disciplined around budgeting. So for 2021, we spent the year with a budget of about $30,000 a month. That was basically our all-in operating budget. And you can see here we break that down into program expenses, people expenses, property expenses, and then some incidentals and sort of other. And so that you see how it broke down in 2021 Sorry, I have 2021 at the top of both columns. That's really helpful. Sorry, first column is actually 21, second column is 22. So for 2022, this year going forward, we're budgeting at $35,000 a month. So we've upped our budget by about $5,000 a month. A lot of that is because of growth in people expenses. You see, that's where the biggest increase is of about $2,200 a month. Like Lisa said, we need to take care of our employees and our staff. These people are regular people who have bills to pay just like we do. If you've watched the news for even 4 minutes in the last 3 months, you know that hiring and keeping people is very hard right now. The labor market is a very difficult place. And so we want to make sure that we're being a good employer and that we're doing everything we need to do to keep our people. And so that's an area where we're definitely trying to focus. Our property expenses are going up a little bit, mostly because we know there's some things we still need to be investing in, like some AV equipment on a regular monthly basis that we've never really budgeted for. It's always kind of caught us off guard. There's a few other things on the grounds as well that tend to catch us off guard, and so we're trying to get better at that and being a little more aggressive with how we budget for those things. And then just some really small increases in program expenses and our sort of incidental expenses as well. And so that takes us to $35,000 a month in expenses, which means we would love to see our giving increase to try and help offset that. We would really like our monthly giving to keep up with our monthly expenses. And as Lisa mentions, growing our attendance and growing the size of our community is obviously an important part of that. At the bottom of this chart is $75,000 in 4 big buckets. These are areas where we know we're going to need to spend some money this year, but we really can't fit them into the budget and really feel like it's going to be an appropriate ongoing budget. So these are going to be some one-off and large project expenses for the most part. There's a campus security and lighting line item where we're actually applying for some grants and hoping that we can offset some of that. There is a new street signage project because our street sign out there is essentially invisible to everyone, and we would love for it not to be invisible. Connie is working on that. We have a lot of options there of all kinds of things we could do. Some are way more expensive than others, so that's sort of TBD. There's some additional audio video things we would like to do to make sure we're more effective at streaming, and those are going to be some larger one-time expenses. And then there's some other significant ongoing maintenance, things that are involving air conditioning units or things that are involving giant trees that are going to need some work, et cetera, et cetera. And we know that those things are coming, and so we would like to get ahead of those things and wanted to let the community know where that money is going to be allocated. So we've got about $75,000 in these somewhat one-time or less frequent expenses that are definitely going to be coming up. Again, we could spend that all out of the reserves, and if we have to, then we have to, because some of these things are absolutely going to have to be done whether we like it or not. But it's also an opportunity for the community to step up and help us raise money for these things. And if some of these things speak to certain community members, and if there are things that people feel strongly about, then that's a great opportunity to take that energy and turn it into money and use that money to do what we need to do for the church and for our grounds and our capabilities going forward. So that's it for me. I guess questions will wait till the end. Is that right, Lisa? Okay. Shara is next. So with that, Reverend Shara.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Todd. Thank you. This is, feel the vitality? I mean, doesn't that feel great? Wonderful. Thank you all. Thank you, board. Okay, so this is the Spiritual Ministry Team, SMT's report, and it's really the report since September's annual meeting. And because Blair gave a report then, and I like to say you can't marry everyone, because you really can't. But yet in spiritual communities, you usually get one choice and you're stuck with it. You know, you're kind of stuck with the minister you get. So I really see how it's working to have Reverend Blair, Craig, and I offer a diversity of ministerial styles where hopefully you'll be able to marry your spiritual tastes with at least one of us. And hopefully be on friendly terms with the rest. So for me, it's been really remarkable. Like since our first meeting as an SMT 1 year ago, 3 strangers have just been able to come together with an unfailing experience of coherence, of deep respect, of harmony, of healthy collaboration, and that in itself has been such a blessing. So it's really been such an honor for me to serve on such a lovely, spiritually mature, coherent team. Really, really, I have so much gratitude for Reverend Blair and Craig. And on behalf of that team, I'm honored to give you the spiritual ministry team update, letting you know what we've been up to since the annual meeting. So September was our month of the newcomer, and we held our first Newcomer Sunday, which was geared towards brand new congregants and newer congregants, with a message on who we were and how we're better than everyone else. Sorry, I revised that. How we were unique. We had some 20 new guests who found us from a combination of personal invitations from so many of you and marketing that we've been ramping up on Facebook and Meetup. Our new members were then immediately encouraged to join AIF groups to develop bonding and connection and spiritual study. Reverend Blair then offered a new member class 2 weeks later and a spiritual baptism class the following week, where new members were installed and beloved members had the opportunity to be baptized again. Adventures in Faith, of course, was a huge success that we will be replicating more than once in 2022 based on those successes. And the SMT kicked off AIF with a Friday night and all-day Saturday online retreat, culminating with the soulful Q&A with the author John Selby, which also marked the beginning of a wonderful friendship with a master soul. John Selby bookended AIF with the closing hybrid Q&A at the program's end. And we know that Reverend Blair really picked a home run of a book with 7 Masters, 1 Path. But it was you all that ran the bases for the win with 6 groups, either in home, on campus, or online. They were all expertly facilitated, well attended, extremely well reviewed, resulting in group bonding, cohesion, spiritual deepening, some impressive meditative chops, and sacred service projects that benefited the entire community. So thank you all for that real collaborative win. It was very, very exciting and gives us a guide of how to move forward. I completed a 4-week spiral dynamic series in September, and later that month, Reverend Blair led and I assisted in a 6-week grief group. Craig continues to anchor our programming by offering weekly, well-attended, world-class Wednesday night meditation groups, which really reinforce our unity tradition of prayer and meditation. And then I also offer Sunday salams following most of the Sunday services when I'm here. The SMT, supported by the board, hosted our first Christmas Eve service since COVID, led by Craig with virtual assists from Reverend Blair and I, thanks to Lance. And we hosted a music and mystery-filled New Year's Eve burning bowl and letter to God service, where Craig, Reverend Blair, and I served together in person for the first time ever. So we anchored that spirit in this sanctuary and on these grounds, and I affirm that matters. You know, that cohesion and that love it's really a blessing. And then, of course, we offer our Sunday services, which I hope, in my humble opinion, are worth getting up for, coming here for, and tuning in online, because we all do it with great love and great commitment to keeping that, funneling in the coherence to maintain the organization in evolutionary love. It's really what it's about at its core. Let's see. Okay, so I think in terms of kind of where we are, that's been a little bit of a recap, and now we're really poised to see what's next. So actually, we're really asking for all of your assistance in that, because the SMT right now is developing a spiritual curriculum for 2022 and possibly multi-year curriculum, but we're really now looking how to deepen that, how to institutionalize it, how to really make it work. So we want to know a little bit more about what is your heart wanting to lean into, and that'll be part of the discussion that Deanna and Kathy will facilitate at the end. And if you're online or even here, start thinking about that question. What would you like the SMT to bring more of in terms of spiritual programming? So let's see if there's anything else. We've got some things starting for 2022 with the Enneagram class that starts tomorrow, and then we're starting bringing back our very first in-person workshop since before COVID with John Selby at the end of the month, which we trust is going to be an ongoing relationship. And then the rest, stay tuned, because we are going to be bringing it forward, the meditation class, the practitioner training course, and the curriculum that is in development. So now I'd like to switch gears for just a moment and try to keep within my time frame, and take a moment to say a few words about our youth and family ministry. Erin will be giving a full report at our annual meeting herself in March, but to begin, to say a few words from my part, the program is beyond incredible. Truly beyond incredible, and is led by one of the most dynamic, heart-based, creative, relational, skilled, visionary, effective leaders who I've had the pleasure of working with and who really knows how to create something from nothing. So that's Erin Hosteller. Erin took a program that was literally shuttered for months because of COVID and has resurrected it into a thriving heart cave of love for our families and our children. And I rarely wish I was the mother of small children again. But every now and then when I see what's going on in YFM, I'm like, oh, I want to be part of that with my young kids. That's really speaking to my heart. So, we see as leadership that if there are not some radical changes, in 20 years, Unity of Tustin won't be a viable spiritual community. And that is unacceptable. The medicine and love that we cultivate is too needed in our collective world to ever let anything like that fall apart and not being rebirthed. There's some hospicing, but we are committed to midwifing. We are committed to leaning in with prayerful sincerity and strategy to usher in that emerging future and to midwife tomorrow's Unity of Tustin. And Erin is key to that movement and that process. Every Sunday, Erin develops multifaceted, unity-inspired curriculum, schedules teachers, and is joined by an ever-growing number of very happy families. In addition, in just the past 3 months since Erin officially started this position, she's created a New Year's Eve board-breaking ceremony for parents, children, and teens. A winter solstice ceremony had rituals and ornament making, a Unity of Tustin Christmas party enjoyed by the whole community, multiple community drum circles with Matt Manning, games and activities for the AIF kickoff barbecue, a beach cleanup for World Kindness Day. Erin has mentored our teens to lead classes and projects. She's created art, gardening, music partnerships with community members, resulting in ongoing enrichment for our children and support for our families, and provided pastoral and compassionate care for families experiencing crisis. Erin does not provide childcare. She provides conscious spiritual formation programming designed to nourish the whole child and support the whole family. And And as our social media consultant, she also develops modern, engaging professional images, contents, groups, and community networks on Facebook, Insta, Meetup, and Eventbrite. And she does it with a can-do attitude and open-hearted joy, optimism, and love. So our future is so bright. You don't have to wear shades. You have to wear heart-shaped shades, which is Erin's signature style. So let's all show some appreciation for our magnificent and inspiring YFM director, Erin Hostetler. Blessings to you, Erin. So much gratitude and so much love. And I will click the next slide. We are blessed. Okay, and with that, let us talk about other wonderful evolutions from our amazing Miss Connie Carter. I can't, I'm not supposed to hug you.
Thank you, Reverend Shara. Erin, we miss you in the board, but you ascended unto the YFM and are just brilliant. You are brilliant, so thank you. I'm just going to take a quick moment here to talk about board elections. And you may be thinking, we did that kind of recently, didn't we? Didn't we, though? Yes, we did. But we are getting back into the normal, regular way of doing things according to our bylaws, according to our timing, according to when annual meetings really take place and when board elections really take place, which will be, Mary Jean will tell us when that's coming up. But so board elections are approaching us. We have two opportunities to run for the board and go on to the board. We'll see how that actually transpires. Two positions are open. The how of it, we can go into that. That's simple. You fill out applications, you send them in, you write stuff. That's easy. I just want to quickly address the why of it. And some of you may be thinking, oh no, oh no. But there are people sitting here who have been on the board. They've been the president or what have you. Many of us throughout this community have served on the board, and it's an amazing position. There are three levels that I will really quickly touch on. One is the service and the depth and the opportunity to be part of what Lisa has just spoken of. What an outline, what we have to look forward to this year. Being on the board, you have a huge part of that. You have the opportunity to really move that agenda forward. In our community, you'll see how all the pieces work together. It's so multi-layered. I had no idea what everybody does here. No idea, but huge, huge. Everybody here has a massive part in how this community moves forward. The second part is the leadership team, again, that Lisa brought forth. We have an amazing staff. We have the SMT that Reverend Shara talked about, and the board. We not only collaborate so closely together, there's no infighting, there's no, what are they doing? It's like, how are we doing? And beyond collaboration comes synergy. We're so much stronger when we work together like that than we would be in just one little group or what have you. There's no infighting. There's how do we support each other? How do we move forward? And the things that come out amaze me. I would never have thought of that, but, well, Mary Jean thought of this and Lisa thought of that, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then the last thing that I'm going to talk about is yourself. The growth that you will experience as a board member. I had no idea. I had no expectation. Like standing here, I would rather eat my own liver than stand and talk to people. But no, it's just what you do. It's just what you do. And so the growth and the humility too. It's not like, here we are. It's nothing like that. It's like, wow. No, it's an amazing opportunity and gift and blessing to be able to contribute in this way. So prayerfully consider it. And don't go, oh, certainly not me. Why not you? So give it some thought, give it some prayer, and we'll have some more details coming up shortly on that. So thank you. Which dealie?
Right button.
Thank you. You said the right button. Technology. Sorry.
No, you did a great job. I concur with everything you said about being on the board. Okay. Is this where we're at already? Q&A? Woo-hoo. Okay. All right. Well, thank you to all of the board members and leadership team, Shara, for speaking out today. Time for Q&A. The way that we thought we would do this, so I'll field questions, but if you have a question for anybody else on the entire leadership team, that's fine. We'll just share the microphone with them and they can answer. And what we thought we would do is go ahead and just go back and forth and take one from the physical community here and then one from online and go back and forth. But before we did that, did you guys want to come up and share what you have found from those two questions? Yeah, wonderful. Okay.
And thank you, Lance, for quickly adapting to the slideshow I just made. Look at that, Lance. Oh, what's that? We're good? Okay. Use the clicker. Okay, I will use the clicker. So what I did while we were talking and hearing from everyone is I synthesized everything that was put on the chart outside and also some input we got from the Google survey. Of course, if you're thinking of things as you see these things and it sparks some ideas, please let any one of the board members know, or Shara, of course. Well, Shara is a board member now, Reverend Shara. So I'll quickly go through these. These were important. These were the important topics that people shared that they think is important for the board to address, and that's. I'll read through it. That might be a little tedious, but garden maintenance information, inclusivity and diversity, outreach and inreach, youth and family, outreach to grow attendance, pastoral care, current and anticipated revenue services, community service, an outdoor business fair. I gotta use this one. Did I? And then someone had said, continuing getting the message across to the community so we all understand that we're all active in the running in the church and involved in creating community responsible for the success of the organization. I think this is exactly what Lisa was saying, that we all have a part and how important each part is, and that we all step up and find our part that would lend itself to the growth of our church. How to let go when it's scary, to welcome power, share what benefits there are in living uncomfortably in faith, being the hub in OC. Okay. I know it was that one was online, so I might have, maybe that was in note-taking form and I just put it up here, but
We'll go through it all thoroughly.
yeah, we'll go through this more thoroughly. And then programs that invite the broader community. As far as classes, people shared they would like some retirement and financial planning classes, arts and crafts, yoga, writing as healing, energy healing basics and modalities, continue with our youth programs and our retreats, tithing 4T was a class, shadow work along with higher frequency pathways, Qigong concepts and exercises. I looked up how to say that. I didn't know. Principles of unity churches, tech skills for our aging population, environment. Hey, let's come. I will give you. I would love to do that. Environmental activism, hybrid classes. So some shared they like to see classes offered online as well. Tai Chi, silent meditation retreat. Social justice teach-ins, what it means to be one, everyone matters, and understanding each other for inclusion. Monthly orientation meetings. I talked to this person, not just necessarily our member meetings, but get everybody on board and let it know how awesome we are more often for people who are trying unity out so we can retain them. Integral Christianity, deep ecology, diversity and inclusion for spiritual communities, cost-minded classes for all to participate. And you mentioned there used to be like Friday free introduction classes to get people. Perfect. Oops, I gotta go this way. Oh, did I do that? Oh, okay. I know. Maybe I quit already. You don't want me as your teacher. So those are now we'll take Q&A. Lisa can take Q&A, but that's from you. Again, if there's something that sparks something for you, or if you want to share any other ideas, please do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, the two of you, for leading that and allowing us to hear more from our community. So we will absolutely take all of that to heart. We'll meet on it in the next couple of leadership meetings and get back to you on how we're going to address some of it. Okay. Let me have it. We're ready for Q&A. Okay. So I think Deanna's going to facilitate the sanctuary Q&A. And if you could also get to people outside too, if anybody outside Deanna has questions. There's a mic right there, yeah. And then Kathy's going to facilitate the online. So we're going to go just, back and forth. So I'm actually going to defer to our online folks first. Do we have a question coming in from anyone online?
Questions, but I have 3 comments.
Let's hear the comments.
Pam Wheeler says, Pam Wheeler says, love you, Erin, and admire your leadership and enjoy teaching with you. Fabian Mulliman says, thank you so much to everyone on the board and in the team in all ways, with 3 or 4 exclamation points after that. Marge Britt says, and thank you, Christy. She is so good at what she does.
Indeed. Thank you, Christy. Okay, wonderful. Okay, well, we're looking for some more questions out there from you, from our virtual folks. So still got time. All right, Carrie.
I was wondering if we could go back to the financial slide. I had a couple quick questions.
Absolutely. We'll bring Todd up and let him do that.
You're making Lance go back to the other slide.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's okay.
That's okay. That's okay. We should go back to the other slide deck probably anyway, yeah.
Which financial?
That one's good. Yes, thank you. Okay, I was just wondering if you could say a little bit more what other in the annual revenue is.
Sure.
And what is it that so radically changed the expenses from back in 2017 down to what they are today? What changed that? And then the last one is when you're asking the members to contribute, I'm curious, based on the number of members we have, when you divide our budget by that number, what is that number these days?
Okay. So let me do those in order. Number one, other revenue. Other revenue is a number of things. Number one, it's the money we make on our stock portfolio. So some of it comes from our reserves, and the amount of money that grows in the year, that shows up as revenue in the other category. A large chunk of it are stock donations, which are essentially tithing that's from the community, but not given to us in sort of the normal Sunday offering way, but given to us as a large chunk of stock that's been granted to us. And then there's a whole bunch of other miscellaneous small revenue things. So event revenue, class revenue, retreat revenue, bookstore revenue. There's 3 or 4 other things. But the first 2, basically the stock portfolio growth as well as gifts given to the church that are given in stock, those 2 make up the biggest chunk of that extra $150,000. The second question you asked was, how come the expenses changed so much, right? And that's because we have done a really good job at getting really lean. And if you look at what we had to do in 2020 to survive the pandemic, it involved getting really, really lean. Now, some of that is a growth of revenue and expenses together, right? So whenever we do a retreat, whenever we do a class, especially with an outside speaker, you end up with sort of an expense growth, but also a revenue growth, right? So whatever we charge for that retreat, that's revenue, but whatever we have to pay the teacher or the leader of that retreat, that's an expense. So because we've reduced a lot of our classes and our programming and our retreats over the last 2 years, for obvious reasons, that has reduced some of the revenue, but also a lot of the expense has also reduced in a commensurate way. Your third question, and I actually did this calculation yesterday, it depends on how many people are donating to the church, but if we had 150 people that were donating every single week to the church, we would need $54 per person to get to the $35,000 a month budget that we're trying to support. So if we had $54 a week per person by 150 attendees would get us the $35,000 a month number that we need to make in order to operate without a deficit. Right, that's what they would need to do, yes. Yeah, now we know that not everybody can give the same amount, right? So there's not necessarily that expectation. Some people can give more, some people can't. But we are talking a lot at the board level about new models of tithing and new ways of breaking that monthly, expense base down into ways that people can understand. And really our community now needs to be sort of giving on average $50 to $75 per person, because we're not averaging 150 givers right now. That's a number that we probably did average 3 or 4 years ago, but we're not currently. And so if we, but that $50 to $75 per person per week is kind of where we need to be operating if we're going to try and cover our monthly operating expenses with normal offering donations.
Okay, I'm just going to say that out loud again. So when we're all putting our money in the basket every week, we need to put $50 to $75 in order to meet our budget.
Yes.
Thank you.
On average. Yeah, I do auto giving. That to me is a lot easier than having to do it in the basket. But
What is that for your monthly?
for how many are auto giving currently?
No. So if somebody could quickly do a very simple calculation of if I were giving $50 to $75.
Oh, I see what you mean. It would be, that's essentially $2,500 a year. So that's essentially $220 a month.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So if you're giving once a month, and if you were giving roughly 200 to 250, that range, that would be the same as doing that like 50 for a week.
I promise Patty, and then I'll. Thank you, Todd. This question is for you too.
Okay.
Your first eye chart, I couldn't begin to see it.
The racy one, yeah.
Yeah, will that, and I didn't know what racy meant either. Anyway, will that be online?
Yes. This whole presentation will be online, right? Yeah, we'll put all these slides online so that you can all look at them.
Okay, great. I see in the news how California might penalize us for water usage, and I'm wondering if there's a way that we can break out in our financial control how much we spend for water, since that's an issue for
Sure.
California. And
Do you want me to speak to that really quickly? I would say the best thing that I can say about that is that we've actually installed an incredibly smart sprinkler system over the last 6 months.
I know Connie and Steve are
Yes, Connie and Steve are
fabulous.
amazing. So we
Yeah.
now have a system that literally knows what the weather is every day and knows whether we should or shouldn't be watering based on actual weather conditions and based on actual dryness of our soil. So it's an amazing system where
And it will
a year
track
ago
how
we
much
did not
we
have
spend
that.
for water.
We already track how much we spend,
Oh,
but we should see our water usage go down because we'll be just watering as needed and not watering based on anybody deciding what the schedule should be based on a best guess.
Okay. One of the things that Deanna read was about hybrid classes, and I remember that there was an issue that our Wi-Fi network didn't cover the whole campus. I think Pam Pence and Harvey tested it to see if we could have outdoor hybrid classes. And so are you all planning to expand the network so it's strong enough to cover the entire campus?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Eventually. Once we need to, we will. But yes, that is something we're aware of because our current network does not cover the whole campus.
Okay. I just want to give a shout out to the bookstore, and even more than that, I want to give a shout out to our staff. I don't know how we would have gotten through all this without the dedication of Mary Jean, Christy, Marco, and Carol. And I think if that $6,000 is just laying around, give them a raise.
We have a couple questions from Pam Wheeler about board participation. She asks, what are the qualifications, time commitments, and responsibilities of being on the board? How would a person determine if they have the needed skills? Are board meetings hybrid online as well as in person?
Do you want?
I'll send her
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of just speak from personal experience, but you will get, Mary Jean's going to talk in a little bit about like the actual process. But the qualifications, to be honest, are, commitment. Every single person on the board has, some level of skill set that they, bring, whether it's, from a business background, able to bring in an accounting background, able to bring in organizational skills. I mean, there are skills required because we have to, create agendas each week. We have to focus on issues. We have to focus on growth. So we meet twice a month. Every meeting is supposed to be like an hour or 90 minutes or something like that. They're usually 2.5 to 3 hours. And then we meet individually as teams. As you saw in the matrix, right? If you're on one of those teams will meet individually. And then, of course, that's, there's communication through email and whatnot, kind of daily, weekly that goes on in between that to keep things moving. So specifically, Pam, would love to have you apply. It was Pam, right? The question came from? Yeah. And you can look at the details when Mary Jean, hands them out to you. I would also suggest for anybody that's interested, come and talk to one of us. We'll give you a real sense. I mean, I love the way that Connie presented it. I mean, really kind of no holds barred, right? It is work and it is commitment, but it is also one of the most rewarding, if not the most rewarding thing you'll ever do. So please, come find any one of us and we're happy to share more.
Yeah, and part of her question was, are we meeting online as well as in person? And for answering that we're meeting online.
Yeah, we have actually never had an in-person meeting, I don't think, right? And not even because of like, COVID concerns and whatnot. It's just, it's so much more efficient with people's schedules and, just being able to kind of like see everybody and get to the files we need. And it's just really efficient. So that's been our motto. Yeah. Anything else?
No other board questions.
Okay. Okay.
Does anyone else outside have a question? Anyone outside?
No questions?
No questions outside? Anybody inside have a question? Okay.
Okay, well then
Good.
that is going to conclude our Q&A portion of the meeting. And can you jump to the very last slide? We are actually on our last slide, ready to close out. So as Mary Jean walks up, I want to thank all of you for attending. I want to invite all of you to, as you think about, if you review the deck, feel free at any time to reach out and ask questions and also input into it, right? If you feel like we've missed on something and we've got something up there that's not important, you think something else really is, let us know. We are here to serve you. We are here to guide in the best of our ability. And, as I mentioned earlier, you are the community, right? So love you all. And with that, here's Mary Jean.
So to get back to our schedule of having the annual meeting in March, the annual meeting will be March 13th. And there's a lot of things that have to happen prior to that. And some of those things will start coming to your email if you're a member. It's just most of these things are for members. You have to renew your membership every year, so you'll be getting the membership renewal form. Kirk Grieve has kindly agreed to maintain his role as the selection committee chairperson until we elect a new and we will be electing a new selection committee chairperson, because remember, it used to be nominating committee, but they're not nominating anyone anymore. People are nominating themselves, and there will also be information about that. The forms that you need to become a board member to apply, one of which is including your vision statement for Unity of Tustin. There will also be some time for the community to in person, and on Zoom. Everything's both now. To watch these people speak about why they want to be on the board and what their vision for Unity of Tustin is. So all that will be happening in the next few weeks as we go forward, because March 13th isn't that far away. So we will have a lot of things to do to get ready for that. And I just want to say that a few weeks ago, someone who hadn't been at our church for a long time, and people come and go here, and she came up to me and she said, "I can't believe you're still here." And I'm not sure if she meant, "I can't believe you're still alive." But what made me, the reason I say this is because I've seen a lot of boards come and go here, a lot. And I want to tell you that this board is one of the strongest, if not the strongest board. And I know some people will say, well, my board was the strongest board or whatever. But they have, I've stood up here at times and said to you, I'm worried. And I'm not only not worried, I'm very optimistic. Because we have some things in place, we're asking the right questions. Sometimes that's way more important than what the answers are, to ask the right questions. So thank you so much to this board. And finally, let's pray as we close out. A quote from today's daily word: "I am grateful for those who walk the path alongside me." That's what we do in spiritual community. There's a song that says that we're walking each other home. That's what we're doing here in spiritual community. We're observing all of our spiritual study, our prayer and meditation, our giving, our selfless service, all the elements that go into being on the spiritual path. I am grateful for those who walk the path alongside me. Thank you. And so it is. Amen.